Hey folks, welcome to Planning Traffic. Today we are in my headquarters doing a review. Shout out to all my wrestling people on the channel, wrestling fans. Today's episode is going to be a review of this epic pro wrestling program from 1979. I got this off eBay. I was not at this event. But we're going to check it out because it's the vintage and the nostalgia of this is just, for a wrestling fan, is just absolutely off the charts. So let's start it. Not a real long form video. Let's go back in time to September 1979 at Madison Square Garden. I mentioned the program price was $1. You may have read that. Very important too. So I'm going to flip to this next page, and one of the things I really liked right up the top is this. We had they would put the ratings of the wrestlers. Backlund being champ. Got to mention Bruno, the People's Champ, living legend. Pat Patterson at the time had the Intercontinental Championship. I think that transitioned from the North American Championship, and they just changed it to Intercontinental Championship, and that's what he held. Then you get some names here. Bobby Duncan was a big match for Backlund at the Spectrum. I don't know how they ran that in New York, but Philly had about, I think there was two of them. There was 2 months worth of Duncan and Backlund. See Tatsumi Fujinami. Oh my God, Ivan Putski was just so over everywhere he went. There he goes, Dusty Rhodes. Some interesting dynamic going on here, just looking at some of these names. Specifically Dusty Rhodes. I'm going to get to that in a second. And yeah, look at all that. And kind of a repeat of what was on the front cover right here. And they throw some pictures in here. There goes the Hammer. You got to love that. Andre. Hussein Arab at the time, top, well, the left picture there, then the Iron Sheik, and Tito Santana. It's very well known that Vince Sr., everything was a handshake agreement with him. My understanding is tons of cash. Okay, did he pay in cash? I think he did. You can check that out in many shoot interviews. Greg Valentine had one specifically. I remember him. The amount of money that he was carrying on the weekends, going from a Saturday, they were working 2 to 3 gigs a weekend, maybe a Saturday matinee, a Saturday night show somewhere, and then potentially on that one weekend, the Monday night at the Garden. So they were getting, and I guess that's the part that makes sense, because they could literally on one weekend a month be working, because MSG they were all doing monthly shows. So MSG would have the Monday, and then the Spectrum would have the Saturday, and I don't know if DC did Sunday, like that area. Boston was involved. So yeah, the multiple shows during the weekend. There's no like national cable TV where, like, if you were seeing it in your city, you were paying that city's particular cable station, but not something that was going to get picked up by New York or DC or Baltimore or Boston, anything like that. The other thing I did want to mention was Dusty Rhodes is a classic example of like a guy that was working multiple territories. And Vince Sr. was the man for that. Like, Dusty would have been hitting MSG, periodically hitting the Spectrum, but also be in Japan. Yeah, Vince, from the stuff that I've heard over the years, over the decades, Vince Sr. was I think he was I'm going to say he's a well-respected promoter across the United States. And that well-respected is a very flexible word. Let's just say that. All right, let's check another page out. A warning. All the stuff you knew before you even came into the building, they're going to re-warn you what you're not going to do. You know, that whole thing. And then we went back to pictures again. Dominic DiNucci, Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, folks, right here. He was the North American champion for a little bit back then. I think Patterson beat him for that title. Pete Sanchez, SD Jones, kind of like, I got to be honest with you. I got to say that they were like little that's enhancement talent there, the two of them guys. Not completely. They're going to they were jobbing them out. Jobbing meaning just losing to other talent consistently. Let's just say that. They would be against upper echelon talent that they would pretty much be putting them over every match for the most part. Real close here. So yeah, so the little story about the cage match. This is probably I'm actually going to read this because I think this is going to state how many matches they had prior to the cage being set up. If you look real close, look at that railing. So anytime Vince Jr. was the announcer for the TV show. And every time we're like, well, we're going to take a look right now at an event that happened, and maybe it was a wrestler attacking another wrestler and using it as a promo for an upcoming episode of TV or for the Philadelphia Spectrum stuff, promo. Anytime you saw that railing, you knew that video clip was from New York, and that was iconic because that was not the railings that were used at the Spectrum. The Spectrum used actually black, like a wrought iron gate around the ring. They went with the bike racks up in New York, and just an iconic look. Before Chris Jericho's cruise, which I had the pleasure of being on the first year they did it, I think I went. Fantastic time. I probably should do an episode of YouTube. I just think it would be boring just listening to me talk about it, but it was a great time. Long before Chris Jericho's wrestling cruise, there was this. So join Gorilla Monsoon on cruise to Bermuda. Oh, okay. Look at that. Okay, and there goes some details. For complete details, contact, that's from Willingboro. That's where I believe Gorilla Monsoon was from. And this, I love this. This, I must have seen this ad 1,000,000 times. Not only in the programs, but in wrestling magazines themselves. $1 each, 8x10s. Look at this. Look at the list. All WWF personnel, too. So, also, there you go. Name, address, city, state, zip. Yep. This part, it's just kind of why we buy the thing, right? The whole marquee. Backlund, Patterson in the cage. The Valiant brothers. That was my favorite. Well, no, Johnny Valiant was my favorite with Jimmy, but this one had Jerry in it. Against Andre and Tito Santana. Oh, see, you can't have Johnny in a tag team match because he was wrestling Ivan Putski that night. There goes the Hammer, Greg Valentine versus Dominic DiNucci, Volkov, Strongbow, Bulldog Brower, Ted DiBiase night. There you go. The Iron Sheik, the Great Hussein versus Pete Sanchez. So there's an outside chance SD Jones won this match against Baron Cicluna. Baron Mikel Cicluna, of course, was the gentleman involved in the match where Gorilla Monsoon got caught up with Muhammad Ali. Look that up on YouTube. Johnny Rodz versus Steve King. I love Johnny Rodz, man. And Johnny Rodz has a relative in pro wrestling, and I'm going to get her name and put it on here. And I think she's been recently released by WWE. Mr. X didn't even really know anything about Mr. X. You see the question marks, parts unknown, but Johnny Rivera. Then you flip over here, and there's like a little TV schedule. The next show, October 22nd. There goes the WOR Channel 9 broadcast schedule. That was always midnight Saturday night. And, you know, it was exciting and in color, which was very, very important. And here goes some mail order service. Oh, nice for the tickets. Look at the ticket prices. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Oh. This may have been one of my favorite feuds in history. And it's noted here in this program because I guess I'd have to look that up as well. Greg Valentine and Chief Jay Strongbow. Chief Jay was not Native American. That was his character. They had a strap match. This is on YouTube somewhere, I believe, too, as well. And it is really, it was just great. The whole initial feud started with Greg Valentine breaking Chief Jay's leg on TV, which I still say, for me personally, was one of the greatest moments of wrestling TV. Like, really, that's on the top 20 list of all time, along with Zbyszko turning on Bruno Sammartino. But they're referencing this because they're, even though that was a strap match, what you would think would end a feud, they were already hinting at, yeah, we're going to do it again. So that's what that's all about there. I actually can't stand knowing that some of my favorite all-time managers, which basically would be Freddie Blassie, Captain Lou Albano right there, and the Grand Wizard. Apparently Albano and Blassie, or maybe it was from Blassie's end specifically, did not like Lou at all. And that's part of the old shoot interview lure, is that they constantly talk. You know, I did notice that popping up on the internet. I liked Volkov back then. I liked that version more than I liked the version that won the tag team titles with Iron Sheik. So he just was even more vicious and over then. And if you wanted an official Dr. X mask, I don't even know if I've ever saw him. I really don't. He's mentioned a lot. The merch with the mask was everything. But even when they mentioned him, like, who was he? There you go. Fill it out. $4 each. No, don't send it now, for obvious reasons. So this program actually turned into a piece of history because in this month, and here's the official announcement, I'm sure it was made on TV, that Patterson, claims Intercontinental title. So there was so he went to Brazil, as the story states. He went to Brazil to be involved in a tournament. Sorry for the shadow. Rio de Janeiro. Won. So he had the North American title. Right? Beat the gentleman with the South American title, which I'm just read is fictional. And they turned it into this, the Intercontinental title, which still is a major championship today in the WWE. So, and this happened September 1979. That's when it happened. So that kind of corrects something that I was talking about earlier about it just turning into, it kind of did just turn into, the Intercontinental Championship. I don't even know if that match even happened that he's talking about. Subscribe to Wrestling News. 68-page issue will cover the entire world of Major League Wrestling. Okay. We got that right there. This page right here is dedicated to what happened last month at the Garden, what happened 1 year ago at the Garden, what's happening next month at the Garden. Good stuff, good stuff. And there goes Hanson Jimmy Valiant with Dominic DeNucci, back cover, yeah. Super faces, Chief Jay Strongbow and Ivan Putski. Okay, and there it is. Look at that. All right, folks, thanks for watching. Just want, anyone that want to reminisce about what the programs used to look like, I love them. They transitioned out of that not too long after. They went into a smaller program. It was bigger, it was thin. It didn't really have the content that one had. I made the mistake when I have a lot of cool stuff that has lingered around for a long length of time. I got a video about that. Like stuff that I've owned from when I was a kid that I still have. That being said, I sold a bag of wrestling magazines, and it's probably arguably one of my biggest regrets ever. I thought I was some kind of businessman when I was a teenager, and I know I got hosed. And I think inside that were some of my old programs, which I really had no business. Oh, that was such a stupid thing to do. I also thought I was phasing pro wrestling out of my life. So honestly, like real talk, by the time I liked Hulk Hogan when he was a heel, when he came into the WWF, I liked his character as a heel. The actual Hulkamania, it lasted for me probably for maybe about 9 months. And I was like, yeah, I was like, this isn't for me. So by the time that happened, I kind of switched exclusively to NWA because we had broadcasting up in the Philadelphia area of NWA wrestling. And I sold that bag thinking, oh yeah, that was it. And you know what? It wasn't it. It wasn't even close to being it. When I first started going to punk rock shows in 1983, 84, man, that's all. It was a whole bunch of us be talking about the punk bands that were coming up and playing and what wrestling was going on. I had so many great experiences with my friends that are still friends to this day that I met in the punk community. And that really got things started. My whole point is saying, yeah, I sold that bag of magazines, and oh my God, I so regret it. There'll be a couple I'll be getting back, and these programs, yeah, I'm buying them sporadically. I wish I had my old ones. Oh my God, I had good ones. But yeah, so folks, thanks for watching. I have a lot of wrestling content, pro wrestling content. Mikey Heels pro wrestling playlist. You can click on that. All these videos are on there. There's probably about 50 of them or so at this point. And yeah, that's about it. So have a great day, pleasant tomorrow. And one of these days, and I think I've talked about it in my videos, is understanding as a wrestling fan now. And if you're in your 20s as a wrestling fan now, I'm trying to figure out what the cutoff point is to understanding territorial wrestling, because that's the way it was for me as a kid growing up in the 70s and early 80s with wrestling before the cable boom, national cable stuff started. Yeah, it's a tremendous dynamic. I see how popular wrestling is now, but it was so popular back then, and it was so organic. It was ridiculous. I mean, people were living off of looking at magazines and programs when they can get them, of just seeing wrestlers that they really would never see in live action. You know, they were depending on picture magazines, like, oh my God, there's Abdullah the Butcher. Oh my God, there's Harley Race. Anyone in the South, which is where I currently live. Anyone in the South, the only way you had any clue who they were is if you had a magazine to see them. Anyway, it's an interesting dynamic. And that's going to do it for this episode. I'm done. Sorry for all the babble. I'll see you next episode. Great day, pleasant tomorrow. Have a good one.